Alright, welcome into the channel. This is Paramay Trades. This is Paramay's Trade Journal. Doing something a little different this weekend for the crew over on Discord. CoT Report Friday Roundup edition for metals. So we're doing continuing the segmented edition of commercial interest as a leading indicator. And we're going to take a look at metals. So we've done currencies, we've done the indices. Ooh, what other ones have we done? I know we've done those too. We'll probably take a look at grains after this. There's some pretty good stuff on the chart. So I really wanted to do the metals because quite a few of the charts looking really, really good. One of the most compelling, I think, was gold. But I think silver is up there and platinum's up there too. Actually, all the metals looking, from a commercial standpoint, looking pretty decent. 3-year index on gold not looking stellar. But the 6-month index, the more responsive index, one that we pay attention to as intraday traders or swing traders, seem to have been assistive in a lot of the price action lately. So you see those big numbers. See those big numbers on palladium. That one's hard to play, but if you got deep pockets, maybe we'll take a look at it. But I think we're going to take a look at gold and probably silver, maybe platinum, just really quickly. So gold, looking at the 6-month index and looking at the 5-week prior, quite a bit of sentiment change from 5 weeks previously. But we know what gold's been doing too. So it sold off like the rest of the market did. When all the shooting started here with virus business, again and again, but it rebounded so much better than the rest of the commodities that we've been looking at. So let's drill down on the gold real quick and just take a look. For the last about 4 weeks, on the 6-month index, looking really like the sentiment has shifted here. In the chart, it's definitely showed it. So let's bring in our number 3 chart with commercial interest and just take a quick peek. All right, so what can we see? So let's just draw on this like we usually do, so we can get through this a little bit quicker. Get you folks out of here and get me ready because, well, the market's getting ready to open. So, and I'm really interested in playing the Mexican peso this week. So I'd like to see how that opens this week. So market shifted quite considerably on the 6-month index, and this is looking a lot more aggressive for net long positions than it was back here, even though we had identified some time ago that this was a pretty good aggressive area on the 6-month index. So on the 3-year index, commercials, I think they're tired of getting burned here, so it's starting to move up and get out of that bearish territory. I think producers and merchants and whatnot are tired of getting burned, so they're 6-month index is a little bit more responsive for us, so this has been a pretty good indicator for us. So as a leading indicator, what we like to do with commercial interest is identify that comms are getting bullish in areas like this. Same as always, diminishing or relatively low open interest. This is a good sign that commercials may take this the other way. On the daily WPR, again in the oversold territory, and market sentiment doesn't really help us out that much in terms of a rally. I mean, this was just a whole different animal when the market started selling off. So I don't know, if people were covering, stocks or whatever, some folks were saying, who knows? But I mean, this thing broke down, and it broke down fast, and it also rebounded fast. I think it rebounded much quicker. So comms still holding a very bullish outlook right now. And where's our openness? So our open interest is not nearly as high as it generally is on gold. So is this helpful? So do we want to be a buyer up in this area on gold right now? No market sentiment, not quite peaked like it has previously. So this previous top where we did a little bit of retracing, and then right in this area where comps started to get a little bit more aggressive and maintain a more positive outlook on this. And then we had that peak again. We've done gold videos before, but blipped into this bearish outlook back here when we found about a week of downside, but getting bullish again around the 50% range, and we had some market price action to the upside. So when comps are getting a little bit bullish and we've got that open interest relatively low or diminishing, that's the time to be a buyer. So pretty much on these three areas within the new year, that open interest dropped. It looks like comps took it the other way, or at least they were on the right side of the trade each and every time. So this is really good indicator for gold. When the interest level starts to drop, it's diminishing or relatively low. This is the time to pay attention to what they're doing and to possibly align yourself with a long side of the trade. So when comms are getting bearish and open interest is high, like it is down here, this is not the time to be a buyer. Not the time to be a buyer. So we had 3-year index finally breaching into the sub 20% range, and open interest is high, market sentiment's blazing, and WPR is in overbought territory. So that's the time to take your profits or get short. So this chart looks pretty good. Comms are a pretty good indicator with gold, and we like to follow them. Right, so let's just bring a lower time frame chart in here. Let's bring our 2 in and take a look and see where all the shooting started. Boy, this chart was crazy. This chart was crazy. So we have adjusted our levels quite a bit, like our downtrend channels and our uptrend. So now that we've finally got a pivot to work with over here, and we got a nice support area also to work with. There's so much data here, right? So much good stuff to work with to align yourself with gold. So we'll talk about where we've been and where we're going. And let's see here. So we didn't think that this downtrend was very strong, but let's just go back here first. So this is where all the shooting started, right? Yeah, this is where all the shooting started when the market started selling off. So we got the quickest look, and with the data that we had, to try to establish a downtrend channel to see when this thing was going to turn, or when there were much better opportunities to be a buyer down in here. Right, so this was quite a stick. This was quite a stick in here. So we established a zero coefficient. We established a 1.0 coefficient and 125, and better opportunities to be a buyer down on the lower end of here for any kind of scalp play. But this was really compelling in terms of a swing pivot, because I like this higher low here. I like the reaction that came from it on the 1 hour and even on the lower time frames. So you get your higher low here, get your lower low, and we get a nice higher low here and a really good reaction off of that one. So this was a stellar indication, I think, of a short-term low or a long-term low, for that matter. But this really looked really good. And then, do you want to be? Obviously, in a downtrend channel, like we've talked about before, and as we've learned from our studies here, that this is not a good place. Not a good place to be a buyer just yet. It doesn't appear on this zero coefficient. So a lot of trading happening on here, but a lot of buildup starting to happen on the zero coefficient. So it's starting to look really, really good. And then we get that break, and we find support over the negative 2.5 coefficient, and this starts to look really good for the swing, the technical test, and then time to be a buyer. I'm not sure if we would have caught. Unless you're paying attention to the chart, this was a nice strong move, blasted through this resistance zone. And if you weren't a buyer, I think the time to be a breakout buyer was right about here. And if you were aligned with this side of the trade, you were in the long position. And we know how that went. This was like 1, 2. This was a 2-day hike that just was absolutely blistering. So, nice swing, nice technical test, resistance, a little bit of build-up going on here, and a break. So we got into, we got into this trade for gold. When it was up in this area, and when we peaked out at this high value area up in here, and then found resistance in this area at 1672, we had a little bit of a downtrend working, but we didn't think that it was that strong. So we definitely weren't looking for a short opportunity up in here. I wanted to see something a little bit more. And now that we've got this to help us with the new uptrend channel, this zero coefficient here, we did have a different look to this prior. So I'm just going to take this off real quick. But I mean, this uptrend was so fast. There just wasn't enough. There wasn't a lot to work with. I don't feel like it was just blazing. I think you just kind of hold your butt and say, okay, this is blazing. When's this going to end? So we get up into this area where we're cooking pretty high, up over the 1.25 coefficient, and then we start to break back in and find some trading on this very steep point of control. So then we break through the zero coefficient on the uptrend, and then we start to find rejection on the -2.5, and then we knew that this trend was kind of over and it was time to get out. But I wasn't really convinced that this was a very strong downtrend, just because of the angle of the downtrend channel. When we found at least these two pivots, and I think we were even working with this one at first, but once we got this one, we had a nice established channel to work with, and it just didn't look very strong. It didn't look like this wanted to go. And we'd identified this support area, and we got a nice bounce off of it. So we get back. It was, so is this a really good point of control? Yeah, it looked pretty decent. It looked pretty decent for the most part. So when we start to find some trading and some buildup going here on the zero coefficient, and then again some buildup on the -2.5, I think that we're pretty hipped here that this was a time to get into a long position right up in here. So we'll find support on this value low area, which was the initial. We took the initial pivot off of this to work with, because this did break back up into this this range of trading. So I think we got some idea that this was looking pretty strong in here. But when we saw this build up going on here, this really indicated to me that there was much more strength in gold than it was letting on, and that this was going to go the other way. So we find support on the -2.5, and away we go. We use these two pivot areas, near double top and within this range, which is just about the 50% range, I believe. Just about the midline of this. Just about right. Even if you valued low here, it was just about well, it wasn't a fifth, it was just below it. So this looked good as a nice resistant area. There's some nice resistance. We'd like to flip that, and there's classical support and resistance type stuff. So we get this double top look within the range, and then we flip it as support. So where are we going now? Where are we going now? So we got a value high. It started cooking last week in this area. COM's still really bullish, so we've got our swing high. Find a little bit of support in this area around the 1672, and now we've pierced this value high area. Where's this thing going? COM's still looking pretty bullish, but what can we get? We get a little bit of a breakdown, maybe come down and sweep these lows, and then off we go with as bullish as COMs are. That is quite possible. So a little bit of a tease going on here, but let's see what happens when it comes up and retests, or if it tries to retest this, or if it's just going to break down. Can we break down here? I think maybe we can. A little fake to the upside, and we come back down and see if it finds some, some type of support in the about the 50% range somewhere in here, or if it's going to break down a little bit before we take off to the upside. So let's put that larger channel on here just so that we can see what's going on with gold. See if we have any predictive powers. We'll take this one off too. We'll take this one off, and let's just look at it to see where we are in the uptrend channel, because now at least price action has given us something to work with down here. Now we've got a pivot. So now we've got this, this nice zero coefficient. And I like to get something a little sooner on here. A big channel to work with. But this is looking pretty decent, right? For a point of control, as an area of contention right now. We are trading on the lower half. We are trending higher. But do you want to be a buyer up in this area? I mean, I would say no. I would say I would not want to be a buyer quite yet in this area. It's nice for a scalp play. I mean, I would watch what it looks like here, and what price action does around the point of control. If we decide to push away from that again, and then better opportunities I think exist in the down near the zero coefficient, in this area. Even up a little higher, maybe on the 50% range or something like that. And this thing's cooking, this thing's blazing. Comms are really, really bullish on gold right now, at least on the 6-month index. Is that what I say? Extreme or really, really bullish? I mean, they're setting a new high. A little bit higher than last week, so the numbers are a little bit different in the 6-month index. But I mean, not on the 3-year. Not on the 3-year at all. But, I mean, they've been getting roasted. I feel like commercials have been getting roasted for some time on gold. So, where is this going to go? Where's gold going to go this week? I'll tell you what, I'm not a buyer up here, though. I'm a buyer down on the lower end of the range, but I'm not a buyer quite yet on this point of control. Because the point of control looks like it's good and validated here. We've got some nice trading going on around it. And this is a better opportunity to be a buyer down here in this support area. So it did find some support here. Can it keep it? Can it keep it? Can it not break down? I would watch. Let's see how the market opens. Well, as bullish as they are on the 6-month index, I would think that they don't have positive outlook. I mean, we've got to go with it. So we do 2 weeks positive. Got to follow the chart. It's bullish. That's a bullish chart. Might do a little bit of retracing, but this thing's been bullish for a while. Aside from this, I mean, they're just, it really seems like it's back on track to set new highs. Really bullish chart. We'll watch it. We'll watch it this week. There's some other charts that I really like this week, so I'm just not sure if I'll be playing gold, but maybe I will. It shows me something nice and appealing to take, and then I might take a long position. But right now I'm not in position with gold. So we've played the chart for the last couple of weeks, but I don't hold over the weekends. I like to get into a nice position throughout the week, and Mexican peso is the one that I'm hoping that is going to provide that avenue. So let's take a quick look at another. So platinum looking really good. Silver still looking pretty good. The silver chart is not nearly as impressive as gold is. The platinum, I think, was probably a little bit better. Maybe not. Maybe it was the silver chart that looked pretty good, and the platinum wasn't that impressive. But COM's really bullish here. COM's really bullish. So could we have aligned ourselves with them, back in this area where they held for considerable amount of weeks into the new year and just about into the end of February, where this looked more like a market top, and these guys are getting out. Market top within the last year. Market sentiment really high. WPR in the overbought territory. Open interest is blazing. Comms are bearish. I mean, this chart moves, it moves pretty good from time to time, even when comms are holding bearish, but it seems like they were on the money here. 3-year index, blazing for, let's see, so this was May, so for about 2 months, and we weren't wrong here if we aligned ourselves with the 3-year index with the bullishness that was happening back here. So that looked pretty good. So same thing we always like to see. Diminishing or relatively low open interest. Comms are bullish. You get that oversold territory, and we've got some diminishing or relatively low market sentiment. So this was hindsight, this was a good time to be a buyer on platinum way back here. Time to be a long-term trader back here as price, so we see the correlation one more time as we're approaching this market top. Comms are not that optimistic about it, so they're starting to load up net short wise, both 3-year and 6-month index. So this is time to get out of the pool, right? Open interest is relatively high, comms are bearish, and then anytime we get in this territory where we're in the overbought territory and market sentiment is really high. So I mean, same thing back here, right? Market sentiment really high, open interest. Does this help us a little bit? We got a little bit of retrace going on down here. So there's a little bit of congestion working on here where there was support. No big surprise there, and then we just sideways trading a little bit. But just like gold, comms getting bullish because this is a really good price. I mean, it's just too good to pass up. Well, really good for coming off of the highs at 1050. This is half off. It's wholesale. This just looked too darn good to not be a buyer or to put your longs in for commercial interest. I mean, this is just so low. So low. So we've got that alignment going with platinum too, and they look pretty similar. So what's our lower time frame chart look like? Boy, it was really, the silver chart was really hard to establish a downtrend, but this one was a little bit better. And now we're into some interesting territory down here. With such the rapid sell-off going on, nice, sideways trading down here. So so we identified that we've our zero coefficient here, and then our 1.0. So that took us a while to get the data on this one because it didn't sell off nearly as rapidly at first until we got this, and then rejection on the 1.225 coefficient. This was a very nice tail. That was probably an indication that this was looking more like a bottom, but we didn't really get a swing pivot like we like to see with market bottoms. This just didn't happen. But we had 2 really good tails that might have been an indication that this was just really excessive amount of trading that happened underneath this downtrend channel. Considering I was trading in here, trading in this area. It just didn't look as violent until the shooting started right about this price level. So we got a nice downtrend channel to work with, and then considerable amount of sideways trading for almost a month. Up in here's your high value range, low value range, and we were really just starting to accumulate in this area. And now we're finding support on the zero coefficient. A little bit of resistance on the -2.5, and is this thing going to start creeping up a little bit here? This looks like accumulation going on in here, and with comms as bullish as they are on platinum, maybe we can get some upside going. So Do we have an uptrend channel to work with? I mean, this just that's not very appealing. How can we work with this? I won't be playing the platinum chart. It's just, what do we have to work with? A little bit of trading going on, I mean, but all sideways. It's just accumulating, right? A really funny chart. Boy, I don't really want to play this. Unless you can, where are we going to break out of? What is there to work with to the left? Maybe in this congestion that's working in here. It doesn't look like much, but it's there. It never looks like much, but when the selling's happening this rapidly. Well, it looks like accumulation, right? Swing high, swing low. Boy, not a very impressive chart. If you're looking to scalp, tiny range to work with in terms of scalping, but for the buck, I mean, there's better charts to play. You got deep pockets and you want to take a look at platinum and play it. Go for it. But I mean, just looking at this downtrend channel, at least the downtrend channel is looking quite a bit weaker over the zero coefficient. But I just don't. What is there to work with here? Other than, maybe a longer term trade with some expectation to some upside. And we're bumping into this. We'll find a little bit of resistance here. I think this is why I don't play platinum. It's just a much different chart to work with. A lot of sideways action. What did our daily look like? Yeah, I mean, even when we drill down in the daily, we can see. Let's go here. Let's go. Do I have another chart we can work with? We're gonna get onto silver in a second here. We're gonna get onto silver in a second. Well, I mean, this looked a little. 4 hour looked a little better to try to establish a channel to work with. And that starts to look a little bit different, right? On the 4 hour. Excessive trading outside the channel. Ooh, let's just get this lined up properly. Pretty decent point of control for the most part. So maybe this thing's starting to. Maybe this thing's getting ready to break out. Well, this is one of the few times where I've actually had to use the 4 hour chart to see what the heck is going on with price action. And there it is. So zero coefficient, a lot of trading going on there. Just about the same rejection on the negative 2.5. But is this thing getting ready to bust? And maybe go up and challenge this area at 800. Yeah. So I won't be playing this chart, but comms are bullish. If you're, maybe thinking that this is an accumulation pattern, maybe it is time to get into platinum. A lot of sideways trading. In between 750 and about 700. Yep. In the higher value range and the lower area of this, value of this range. So maybe this thing's getting ready to bust out. A lot of shooting started going on in this area, so I gotta think that there will probably be a little bit of resistance happening in these areas. Quite possibly. Because what reason do people have to go to platinum at this time with the markets the way that they are? a breakout buyer, I would watch this area, this 750, for a bust and a challenge at 800. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. So silver, we can take a look at silver. Palladium, I'm not going to take a look at palladium, but we'll just take a quick peek at the silver chart and get you guys out of here. We can get ready for the market open. Oh yeah, I mean, I did like this chart. I like this a lot more than I did. Looks like a lot of the rest of, looks a lot like the rest of the metals, the precious metals charts right here. COM's getting really bullish on the 6-month index. It's time to be a buyer. You know, oof. Open interest looks pretty ugly, but oversold territory, market sentiment kind of low, right? Relatively low. It's not blazing. It's just the low. Well, no, June was the lowest it's ever been. So I mean, market sentiment doesn't help nearly as much, but commercial interests seem to be hip here, and they seem to be, you know, hip to what was going on in this area too. When so yeah, you know, breaking above the 80% on the 3-year index, getting a little aggressive on the 6-month index, just peaking over, you know, like Tim Allen's neighbor here on the 80%, and a little bit of price action to the upside, but this is, I mean, this was aggressive buying. So how much further can silver go? Back up near 16, right? How much higher does this thing want to go? Well, where's some solid support? This looks a little better in this area. How much higher can go? I don't know. COM's really bullish. WPR in the overbought territory though, so I don't know if you want to be a buyer at this point in time. But we'll just, you know, look at the chart and see what's going on. Probably safer places to be a buyer. I mean, this was, whew, that was a cliff. I mean, there was no place to even establish a downtrend channel with this. It was just kind of hope to find a range to play with, you know, to get into this. So in both cases, I found that the 50% area of this trading range seemed to be rather important for silver. So we swing low. Finally find a pivot low here to work with. Finally get a reaction, so we get to swing high. So we establish a value low, value high, and then yeah, if we break it a little bit, liquidity probably taken underneath here. I mean, never closed below it, but we did pierce it. So then there's this, you know, this 50 to 60% range of the range that we're trading. So there's about midline, and we find support in this 50 area, and then away we go. So we swing high. Same thing. Just barely pierce it. A little bit of a tease, maybe a little bit of a fake for buyers. We finally find a value low in the trading range, and then we're kind of stuck underneath that 50%. And then again, we find support under. So I don't know if this is, you know, if this is the way of silver and this is how this chart trades, but again, finding support about 50% of this trading range, and, you know, away we go again. So the green box is the established, so-called established area where we think we'll find support. And now do we have, so let's just take off these 50% to clean it up a little bit and take a cleaner look at the uptrend channel that we're working with. COM's really bullish. Do we have a good point of control to work with? A good mid-range of this channel? I mean, yeah, I mean, it looks pretty good, right? It looks pretty decent for the most part. So here's that, you know, the excess. You don't want to be a buyer up in here, but I mean, we established, I think, this channel much later. We had an earlier channel, I think, we were working with. Oh, we noticed a little bit of breakdown, but it just wasn't a very strong breakdown, that's for sure. So we got a nice established uptrend to work with. We'll establish our zero coefficient down here. And I think we got an early establishment of the 1.0 coefficient with this pivot. And that let us work with, this with this channel. So, I mean, it looks pretty decent, right? It looks pretty decent. Here's the 1.0. We'll find a resistance there. Continuing to find support on the 0 coefficient. Better opportunities to be a buyer in the lower end of this channel if we think that this is going to go up. But that's how we ended. That's the candle that we ended on, which was support over the point of control. So better opportunity probably to be a seller up around 16.65. Or if you're already in a long trade, better place to take profits, probably in one of these two areas. But definitely a much better opportunity to be a buyer in the lower end of this channel. So, like we said before in some of the observations that we made, previously, is it easy to be a buyer on the point of control? When we find, seemingly looks like there's, some support here, but we can't even get over that EMA on the 4 hour. And trapped underneath it, and then we finally break out a little bit. And so there's your breakout, I think, of this very simple EMA that might have helped out. It's just like an 8 EMA. We did find support down here, so resistance, resistance, resistance on the EMA. We close above it and then find support on it. So here we are finding support on this 8 EMA. Bull's just really in control of this chart at the moment. I think comms think so too. So what areas can we work with support or resistance areas? So it's a pretty decent area of support going on in here on the 4 hour chart. So I would think that there would be, shooting started here. So is there going to be a little bit of selling pressure happening right up in this area where it's a much better place to be, a seller over the 1.25 coefficient. So if it's going to continue to the upside, I would be careful with some pressure going on up in here. At least be alert to it and then see, it's going to break down and find a little bit of retrace. Maybe see if we can find support here, because we haven't really tested this area yet. So maybe it keeps going. Better opportunities in the lower half of the channel, though. Hard to be a buyer. Hard to be a buyer to chase this up here, but looks pretty decent on the point of control. Let's see how it opens. Kind of blazing up over that EMA too. Com's really bullish. They didn't come down very much. Ooh, we got the large numbers still here on silver. This should be 100% index. Sorry if we haven't switched that. Okay, so that's what I got to say about precious metals right now. Is that they just, from a commercial interest standpoint, they look really bullish. So buy the tips. I mean, I'm not an advisor, but if I'm going to play these charts, I think I'm going to be looking for, those the lower half of the uptrend channels to be a buyer, and looking to take profits on the up over the 1.25. Cool. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for subscribing and leaving comments or hitting the like button. We really like that stuff. We've got a Discord community. Server is listed in the description of this video. And if you want to stop in and talk trade, we'll be around. Hope you find yourself on the profitable side of the trade, and we'll see you again on the next video.